We spoke about it before, didn't we, Burnley, in this 4-5-1. And you can get the image back up again, if you don't mind. Now, this time, in this image, Gravenberch has got all the players in front of him once again. And again, you know, ball on the floor, full-backs nice and high, centre-backs nice and high as well. And it's very, very difficult. And we've spoken already about it. It's the rotation, and we didn't do much of that against them. Can you go to the Atletico Madrid one next, please, Aaron? Because I think for me, going from that Burnley game to the Atletico Madrid game, look at the midfielders there. It's not Gravenberch, the deepest player forward, the furthest player back, the deepest player. It's Szoboszlai now, and Gravenberch's inside. Now, this is the assist for Mo Salah, isn't it? This one. And he's already won a free kick at this point, 5 minutes into the game, on the edge of the penalty area that we score from.
Gravenberch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now he's picking up the ball to make an assist to Mo Salah. So within the first 10 minutes, completely different game plan to the one that I've got on the board.
Yeah.
Gravenberch, deepest player, Mac Allister and Wirtz ahead of him. Everybody behind the ball. Okay, didn't quite work out. First 5 minutes against Atletico Madrid, Josh. Gravenberch's here in this space on the edge of the penalty area, and Szoboszlai's back here instead.
Yeah.
And again, it's that ability on the half turn. He wins the free kick on the edge of the penalty area. He sets Mo Salah up for a goal as well. And then we can move on into the Everton game, Josh, because his goal was an absolute beauty, but where is he on the pitch for? You've got to ask yourself that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he has that license to. I don't know if getting forward is the right term so far, but he's definitely getting into the turns, and you get into the turns by playing higher. So he must be getting forward, and the way in which Liverpool exploited Everton, I felt, was to do with Grealish. I wrote a piece on that yesterday. If we maybe visualise it on the board, Everton played with a back four, didn't they?
Yeah.
I think one of the problems with playing with a Jack Grealish is he ultimately would rather not defend. I think that's potentially why City have accepted his departure. He fell out with Pep Guardiola by the looks of it, and I think it probably is because of the defensive end. So he caused Liverpool problems, but Liverpool then could get inroads behind Grealish, which we've seen other teams do to Salah. We've seen other teams do it to Trent as well on that side for Liverpool. So Gravenberch just found himself drifting into like Grealish kind of spaces, which we will get to for the second goal. But the first goal, it's Conor Bradley who runs off Grealish. Grealish passes him on. Salah's already out there, but when Grealish passes him on, gets to about here, Michael Keane listens to Grealish, does his job and follows over, but that creates the big space here then between Michael Keane and James Tarkowski, and that's when Gravenberch comes in and makes the marauding run. So if we go to the viz to show it, you can see there what's happened. So I've highlighted Grealish, I've highlighted Michael Keane. You can see Salah there on the wing. You can see Conor Bradley making an inside run, and you can see the space that's opened up for Gravenberch to attack. And again, going back to what I mentioned before about profiles, I mean, you could argue if that's Moises Caicedo, he is reluctant to make that run. You could argue if it's João Palhinha, he doesn't make that run. You could potentially argue Gravenberch doesn't make that run last season. And that's kind of what we're touching on, as in, is this a new development for Liverpool whereby all three of the midfielders have license to impact the final third? All three midfielders are expected to contribute on a defensive end. I mean, that's one for you, to be honest. Is that something that you would have seen last season?
I didn't see it last season, not in the same way that we've seen it now. I think that something has to be said for what you mentioned earlier on in the show about, you know, the PSG game and, you know, the way Vitinha and Neves and is it Ruiz?
Yeah.
We're all switching. I think the other thing for me is there is a better understanding probably between Szoboszlai, Gravenberch and Mac Allister, which was the midfield that we saw against Everton, than when we've had a midfield playing with Wirtz in it at the moment. The question marks I have, I suppose, Josh, are this is a great development that we've seen against Atletico Madrid, where Gravenberch getting further forward, against Everton, where Gravenberch gets further forward, and Szoboszlai or Mac Allister sits a bit deeper at times. It's not just Gravenberch, it's all of them. We've mentioned it is a rotation. These three players are going to do a lot of this and keep, and sort of whenever the merry-go-round stops, they're going to play wherever they play.
Exactly, yeah. It's a good way of putting it, yeah.
My question to you is that the same for Wirtz?
That is a question. I mean, the Atletico Madrid example you've just used, he does start that game, so that bodes well. And I think it should. I was going to say should benefit him. It should benefit him in the sense that if anyone wants to roam, it is Florian Wirtz, without question. He's one of the keenest movers I've ever seen. Never stand still. Very different to the traditional number 10 in that sense, because the traditional 10 would stand basically in the hole between the opposition defence and midfield, and you just kind of... Do you remember Riquelme?
Yeah.
He was a player who just didn't really move.
Fans remember him as well.
yeah, definitely. But you just didn't... He just kind of stood there and just received the ball. But you've got 10s like Wirtz who are constantly roaming, constantly want to get involved. So if he can rotate and roam, that's good. But going back to the Cole Palmer example from before, if Wirtz finds himself as the deepest player, don't get me wrong, he wants to defend, but
he's in a firefight.
Possibly, but you ultimately just want him higher. I think with Szoboszlai, Mac Allister, Gravenberch, they are just literally kind of three clones who are just all really well rounded, and you could play them as a 6, an 8 or a 10 for any team. And
they've all got different things, haven't they? You know, I think Mac Allister's a bit more of the pass master, Szoboszlai's a bit more of that sort of engine and physical sort of thing. Gravenberch a bit more of like almost the silky 10, yet still has the 6 thing going on. But ultimately, they're really great all-rounders, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But if they played for any team in the world and that team played any of them 3 as a 10, you'd be like, okay. If you played any of the 3 as a 6, you'd be like, okay, depending on the team. I think Wirtz obviously plays as a 10 for any team in the world, sound. But if I say there's no team in the world that would play Florian Wirtz as a 6.
No.
So if at times he ends up there, that's when the whole roaming rotation thing is maybe a problem. Maybe, I don't know if that's the right word, because he's just not that, is he? Whereas Gravenberch can do that, Mac Allister can do that, Szoboszlai can do that. Wirtz, you just ultimately want up there.
Do you think it maybe becomes a bit more of one of two? Rather than a rotating 3, because I do think this has its advantages, and I think we've seen a lot of Mac Allister up here at times. Certainly during the Burnley game, Mac Allister was alongside him.
I think one of the
issues, actually crowded the space for Wirtz with Mac Allister next to him for me in the Burnley game.
Yeah, I think one of the issues is if you go to the Atletico Madrid, there's what we've seen is the player I think who has swapped with Gravenberch the most since he started getting these returns, and you can see it there, is Szoboszlai.
Yes.
And Szoboszlai is playing... Szoboszlai in the Everton game played the role of Wirtz. So if the guy that's been covering Gravenberch for these attacking returns is getting replaced by Wirtz in the next game, let's go back to the Atletico thing again. Imagine Szoboszlai there is Wirtz, and you lose the ball. Now, he's not a passenger by any stretch of the imagination. He's not like defensively bad or anything like that. He will work hard and stuff, but he's just less of a safety net than Gravenberch or Szoboszlai is. So these are just subtle little differences that you are playing with.
But then I suppose, you know, if we go on to the very last one, please, Aaron. Obviously, Gravenberch gets his assist in this fizz, doesn't he? Obviously, it's great run, great touch, great finish by Hugo Fernando Ekitike.
Is that his middle name?
No, but he plays like Torres.
I was going to say, that doesn't really fit. A Frenchman with Fernando as his middle name.
I should have gone with Hugo Fernando Torres Akatike, make it a little bit more obvious. But
at least Liverpool plays are more in sync than me and you.
What we can say here is, look, again, Gravenberch's further forwards. I think Mac Allister alongside him, all in behind Everton's midfield. Great news. But the difference now between some of the examples we've shown already in this show is the fullbacks are back.
Yeah.
Kerkez isn't joining the attack in this one. Conor Bradley's on a line with Kerkez. So we've still, and Szoboszlai's there, so we've still got our 5v5. But we're doing it with different players. And I think that's where it comes to.
Yeah.
We have focused so heavily on rotation at the midfield. I think we've kind of forgotten that these two are a part of that.
Yeah.
And yes, these guys move, but if two go, then maybe these two stay.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
I think potentially one of the reasons we've overlooked that is because of the extent of the fullbacks in an attacking sense. So when you think of Kerkez, you think of him there. When you think of Frimpong, you think of him there. When you think of Bradley, probably a bit less offensive than those two, but can definitely still do it in the final third. So you don't really think of safety net stuff, but you are spot on. If you can get 5 players in, your blankets behind the ball, it kind of doesn't matter who it is, as long as you have an 11 of just rounded, complete players. And Liverpool do, really. You can't knock that. So, yeah, that's another way in which it can work. If you can somehow put a leash on Kerkez and whoever's playing right back. I mean, we spoke about this in pre-season. I did a few shows with Steve on it about the idea of rest defence and making sure that you've got enough of a presence behind the ball when you lose it to not suffer. And you could argue in our past few games Liverpool have been better at that. We didn't really give away much against Everton at all, apart from the goal that we conceded, and it's a great goal. Against Atletico Madrid we gave away 2, but chances wise it wasn't that much. And the second goal, Marcos Llorente, it's a great finish, it's deflected. So I think Liverpool have tightened up on the defensive end, and it's come from getting that in place a bit better. You just got to hope that these players, and it probably will be a case of the more they play together, the better understanding they have of right, Gravenberch's up there, I'll tuck in. Right, Szoboszlai's come deeper, I'll overlap and go vertical, and I'll go towards the 10. But yeah, you ideally just want it to happen kind of on autopilot, with no one even thinking.
But this is good though, because what we're talking about is this sort of evolution since the start of the season, where we're getting used to a third of our team's new. We're getting used to that, We've got 2 new fullbacks. We've got Akatike and Wirtz in there for most of the games. There's 4 already. We're also introducing Isak in games as well. And we've been playing with Szoboszlai right back. So while we've been sort of gelling, as it were, we've been getting 3 points and everything great as well. But we've also been able to solidify ourselves a little bit defensively and add a few strings to our midfield bow in terms of the rotations, and all this while the car's in motion. It's not bad. It's not a bad start to the season at all, is it? That was a clip from the deep dive. To check out the whole show, head to redmenplus.com or click the link in the description.